there was no breaking news, but this was one of the rare March meetings where, okay, no rule tweaks and changes. We can live with that. I mean, just leave the game alone. That's the camp that I'm in. Just leave it alone. Have conversation, which is what they did. But this was more about making sure that the world knows that some of the things that they've incorporated, video review, things like that, specific to goalie interference, they're working. And they went through that exhaustive exercise with their general managers to prove to everyone, maybe the general managers included, that the hockey operations people actually know what they're doing inside, right, the situation room and whatnot. So there were some small takeaways that made the meetings there, I think, valuable.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, so it's just like there really wasn't anything big. We talked about cut resistant stuff. As you said, it was tutorials on this isn't goalie interference, reminders to the powers that be of how these things are judged. And then a day after everyone leaves, then we get the expansion bombshell from Emily Kaplan. You're like, everyone was just there, Gary. Come on. Yeah. And he doesn't like the stuff public. No, we're not looking at it. Well, yeah, you are. Yeah. You're behind the scenes schmoozing with everyone, and you have been forever.
Well, yeah, and I'm not defending, but in fairness to that process, I don't remember a meeting other than this one where the assembled media didn't ask him about potential of expansion. Right. Every single meeting we ask about that. And I remember being in that scrum in December at the Board of Governors meeting, which is the owners meeting, where it's probably more appropriate to talk about that. And he just didn't have much of an update with anything. He just said, no timeline. The one thing I would qualify, and I'm not trying to throw dust on the reporting here, because the Friedkin Group has been around for a while. And as Emily Kaplan identifies in her ESPN piece, they have made several gestures and have had a number of different conversations and meetings with the commissioner's office to talk about the idea of expansion into Houston. So I think that would have been his response if we'd have asked him at some point this week. What he's never willing to do is provide a timeline. Yeah. In the last couple of years, he hasn't said, no, we're not going to expand anymore. He does admit that there are lots of people. There's tremendous wealth around the world, around North America, and parties who want to be in the NHL family. In this case, it's interesting to me because we also know that Houston is a market that the NHL thinks would fly for a number of different reasons. The obvious rivalry with the Dallas Stars, a major market from a media perspective, a TV standpoint. And probably most importantly, doesn't it just all talk about dollars? At the end of the day, that's what we're talking about here. And the expansion franchise fee has got to be north of $2 billion with a B. So you're talking about big numbers that make other owners around the National Hockey League go, okay, yeah, the talent pool in hockey is getting more shallow and more shallow. You can understand that. It gets more. The other part to it, I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but when you're adding more teams, and Bettman did talk about this, he's always loath to change what the playoff structure looks like, be it the number of teams in the playoffs or the matrix. Doesn't want to tinker with it. So now you're going to go to 34 teams and still have 16 teams making the playoffs. I mean, when you continue to expand, and it sure looks like the NHL is going to expand, then you absolutely finally have to be open to significant change in other areas. And I've never been able to see why it's a bad thing to have more teams in the playoffs as opposed to the 16 that have been there forever and ever and ever.
Okay, so I'll counter that just with a thought. Is there a professional sports playoff as good as the NHL's first round?
Not as we talk today, there isn't. You look at some of the matchups.
Not broke, don't fix it thing, right?
No, you're right, Ryan. But the flip side to that is that people bitch and complain about it every single year. You get Edmonton, LA, who's Colorado?
Well, Dallas, Colorado. Yeah. I was just looking because Dallas, if it's a 1v8, however you want to look at it, Dallas would be the second seed, and that would get you Minnesota or whoever, St. Louis at the bottom, but you get Colorado in round one. Which
I'm glad I get to see it though, right? That's the other side. You might not have get to see it otherwise.
And that's
it sucks. It's round one in a way, but that's why round one's so good. You get these titans playing each other sometimes.
And it's why I don't vehemently argue this, because the trump card for me is, if you're going to hoist that trophy, the Stanley Cup, we got to beat everybody in the process. Right. So if Dallas is this true top Stanley Cup contender, and it sure looks like they are, I think a lot of us thought that. I mean, there are other teams, and Colorado's in that conversation too. But as difficult as it is, and of course we know that a Stanley Cup contender in that series is going to be ousted in round one. Okay, then you weren't a top contender. Sorry, it looked like you were, but to hoist the Stanley Cup, you've got to beat everybody in 4 rounds. So I think with more numbers of teams, again, through expansion, I don't think it would be just a significant issue for the National Hockey League and the schedule makers to go, okay, well, let's just bump it to 20 playoff teams and see what happens. It'd be an easy fix.
Yeah, I think like the expansion thing is a great point. This league has never had less than half make the playoffs. In fact, you look at the ages, it was a 21 teams. Almost everyone got in. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.